I think this is very critical question because we have seen the violence in last, you can say, a couple of weeks. But now I feel that it's been contained to, let's say, Poonch and mainly Rawalakot district. Otherwise, if you look at the way I think government of Azad Jammu and Kashmir and Pakistan state went into, dividing this into phases. Like first phase we are having is in the south, Mirpur division, and I think now we are almost at the closing. The counting has started. Then you have in the north Muzaffarabad division, which is again very critical. Then we come to the center, which is this the Poonch division. So one was, and this has been happening, I think, in India. If you look at India, just looking at the anomaly as the, let's say, this example in Indian occupied Kashmir as well as in their states, elections are not held in one day because of management security reasons. So this is not unprecedented in South Asia. Now we know that there was a situation, and somehow this, uh, let's say, defunct party or committee wanted to actually disrupt. This, I think, was one of the reasons they wanted to disrupt, make sure these are not held, and then I think they could have developed a narrative that probably people don't want this process because they were basically challenging the very constitution of Azad Jammu and Kashmir. I think the reports are that it has been held quite peacefully. There were, I think, some sporadic incidents in Kotli, which is notorious for, I think, last election also we had some fights. But otherwise, look at main, Mirpur division, Kotli, you come to Sidnoti, you come to Chadhoi Valley and Samani Valley. The ports are that has been by and large peaceful. Voter turnout is also, I think, closer to my assessment because it was in a channel and the reporter was sending the reports is closer to 50%, maybe plus and minus. Last time in 2021, it was like maybe 60%. So that impact would be there. But by and large, I think people have voted. Women came out. So I would say that this was a wise decision. There is definitely when you go to Muzaffarabad, which is going to be very critical on 2nd of August, and then move to Poonch, and we'll see in how things develop. But I think by and large, the government has been able to manage it, and probably this was the only way because there were chances of maybe terrorist attack, disinformation, and then of course undermining of the entire process. I think look at right from the outset, the way this committee was formed up. I would say that they were some of these were based on genuine reasons. And I'll just quickly, take you to, a book by Elvin and Harry Topfers, and they did it, I think, in 1996 or 97. They precisely projected what are going to be challenges by the next generation. They called it the third wave of disinformation wave. How it's going to impact the, parliaments and the democracy and bureaucracy. And they very clearly said if you are not ready for decentralization, you are not ready to, let's say, listen to the power of media, internet, because I don't think so. Then we had, so many outlets like WhatsApp and Facebook, because I think these came after that. And they had actually predicted 30 years back that they could actually challenge. So I would say that our own, system of proxy, governors, parliament, and they said this is basically, structures of industrial, revolution, basically 1848, and still I think we are going with that. So one is of course the understanding by the elite, whether it is Jammu Kashmir or government of Pakistan, and not understanding the kind of challenges that they're going to face. You need more transparency. I think there were very genuine demand also. But gradually then it was, shifting. Like if you are impinging on the voting rights of, basically refugees, and then it will be a long, history. Like, my own grandmother was from Jammu and we know how, lakhs of Muslims were prosecuted and thrown out, killed, and then they migrated to, Punjab in, I think, 1935. So it means that refugees have paid a huge price. Then if you look at occupied Kashmir, how the Kashmiri, Sayyid Ali Gilani, what was the narrative? And still it remains a disputed, territory, irrespective of whatever, let's say, India does. Still there has to be a decision, and for, such movements, at times wait for decades and maybe, let's say centuries. So it means that they were actually now targeting the very basis of the ideology of, Kashmir cause, because Azad Kashmir is supposed to be the freedom camp. Maybe their proxy and their, I think, political leadership is behaving in a similar manner what is happening in mainland Pakistan. But ultimately the cause stays. So it means if they were going to target this very aspect of disenfranchising maybe they are less in numbers, but even if you look at Azad Jammu and Kashmir, I was just looking at let's say voting patterns and demographics. There are 38 lakh total voters registered, and maybe 50% will vote. So it's going to be 19 lakh. And if you look at Pindi Division, probably has the same number of, I don't know, I'm not very sure, but same number of voters. So if you are denying, lakhs of refugees who have actually paid the cost, I know some of my friends in Rawalakot, Islamabad, even in other areas of Punjab who came from. Like my grandmother was also affected. We are, let's say, half of we are Kashmiris. So it means that you are now basically hitting at the basis of Kashmir. And on the other side, there's a huge demographic, exercise being carried out in occupied Kashmir. One is, of course, on the names of Pandit because they suffered, I think. But by and large, now there's the plan to bring in almost 2 to 3 million outsiders. I know retired military personnel are being in lands. So they bring the demographic change, give them residence, and then maybe tomorrow India says, okay, let's have referendum. So if you have here disenfranchised people, are refugees, and on the other side there's demographic change, so it means that India would turn the table even, I think, internationally legally. So this is the danger. So I think there they went wrong. And that's why I think government of Azad Kashmir and people then force came out. So there's a division also caused between, people who came from occupied Kashmir and people of Kashmir. So this is very, very sad. So I think this has to be addressed again because there are opinions from both sides. If there's a manipulation, because there is definitely, if you look at the numbers who vote, like now there'll be, Valley people and Jammu people, let's say, voting in Karachi or Punjab, but even I think Rajasthan has, KP has, I think, 1 or 2 seats. So definitely there'll be in couple of thousands or hundred. So it is felt that probably, this is imbalanced. But the same is true for, if you look at India, they also have, I think, seats for these parts. And they claim, yesterday, Rajnath Singh was saying that they're talking of so-called POK and all that. So I think the youth has to understand it. And probably government could have, I think, managed it well. Uh, Basically, it's just, again, you have archaic systems, old minds, and you think, things can be run like 20th century. No, this is 21st century. I think again a very critical I think point and a question. I see it as a triangle. Look at the entire media discourse, especially on Azad Jammu and Kashmir. The triangle, one part is definitely this defunct or let's say banned action committee, which I call basically global action because of what they did later on. Then is of course unfortunately, let me say it, that there's a political party who is disenfranchised and they somehow you would join any movement or any campaign, which is against state of Pakistan. So maybe they have general grievances, so there are guys sitting outside. So this is the second corner. The third corner is, of course, Delhi. They would like to play, wherever there's a space, whether it's Afghanistan or Balochistan, KP, Azad, they would play. And if you have followed the Godi media, now they are crying horse at Pakistan. They are saying actually it's a sadesh, of ISI, CIA, and MSS. So China, America, and Pakistan, they just joined, to bring this Caucus Janata Party. So I think this blame game would go. But looking at, I think what was happening now, these are the things which are basically talkers had projected that if information is a lot of things, will be very, very unconventional. Like right under your nose, there are people here who are being paid from channels which we don't know. And then, of course, anybody can pump. Now, India is saying that, some of the pizzas were from Islamabad and from Dubai, and they are blaming that there was funding. So, but I think this was a very, very genuine case, which this guy came up when he was, let's say, taken by the agencies and investigated that this is how it was happening. So they, and maybe there are a couple of, other guys doing it, we don't know. So it means that this could be, I think today we saw, Farid Zakaria's, basically a vlog where he was highlighting this part of democracy, the information age and the youth, how they are impacting and how it's becoming so difficult to manage. So I would say that one is the understanding of the entire spectrum. I feel that there are huge gaps in terms of let's say who there's a Ministry of Information, Azad Kashmir or Pakistan. What are they doing? Look at their funding; it's huge, but they'll just be pampering their leadership or their parties. But if you look at state of Pakistan, there's a role. And then, of course, are the youth aware? Are you engaging them? At times, like India, I think, despite that, we know that the BJP has probably crores of people on WhatsApp. First time they realized that, Gen Z was not on Facebook or let's say WhatsApp or Twitter. They were on Instagram. And so it means that there is a different channel, which generally, even in Pakistan, we look at following people with disregard. So I think we have to understand the information mosaic, and that's where we have to take. And then, of course, we have like Speaker Act, but we have to see that how do you implement it. It should not be looking oppressive, but then, of course, you are taking people to task, especially people like this guy who was held, who was getting funding, and maybe he says that he didn't even know it, because I know a lot of automation. That you are getting money and you are putting your bots to amplify. So this would happen. Even now, I was just watching social media. Unfortunately, this triangle is in full blow. India, Godi media, then you have, sorry to say, PTI, and then you London, supporters of this Awami Action Committee. They're trying to actually, basically develop a perception. Probably there was less turnout, and everybody, let's say, people have rejected. So this, I think, information, misinformation, disinformation would continue. But main thing is for bureaucracy and the leadership to understand that we are in a very different age. Like if you talk of Indian Gen Z, then we also have a Gen Z here, which is almost, I would say, I think in terms of median age, Pakistan is like 22 years median age, and India was 29. So I mean, Pakistan is even more younger. So it means that your Gen Z also needs to be, let's say, taken into account and then engaged. Same as in Balochistan. If you look at Balochistan youth, how they are, let's say, bombarded with this let's say, information, disinformation. So there's a lot of ground to be covered, but I feel that the mayors could be one is, of course, understanding the challenge, the, let's say, enormity or the scope of the challenge, and then taking measures. But India would play wherever there are gaps. I think first is to, let's say, have a better environment. Like India, like we believe that probably in India, especially BJP social media cell was the one who was driving, and it appeared that probably they held the sway, but they were surprised. So it means that it's misreading and basically not understanding the, let's say, enormity of the challenge. And in India again, it's like paper leaks was just one part. Mainly, I would say yesterday, I think we were there on media. This was a pressure cooker because of economic reasons. Like I think there was a data that 60% of university graduates are not getting jobs. I have seen it will be surprising for us to, or the audience to know, that they were let's say, cleaners job in railways, cleaners, sweeper, which is definitely, it's not a demeaning, let's say, job. And there were I think lakhs of application, and there was 1600 MPhil and PhDs in India. So this is the, let's say, basically job market. Same, I think we have the same figures. I know that a lot of people are, like in last 10 years, almost 9 million youth has gone out. So it means that you have a problem of creating opportunities. And so if they get economically disenfranchised, there is going to be reaction. And it could be triggered by anything. It could be triggered by, one odd incident. The only thing is, so it means that first is, of course, economic opportunities. Like if you are looking at Balochistan, CPEC 2 is being launched, what is the stake for the Baloch group? And I've been saying it openly on the media. And like they feel that they are much behind, let's say, people, youth from Sindh, Karachi, and Punjab. And some of, I know them remark that, the sui gas that you are using. I remember when I was a captain, so there were friends from Achakzai families and Durrani, they would sit in Quetta, on the footpath. They would say that the sui gas came to Quetta Kent in 1986 and it was discovered in 1956. So what is our fault? So it means that probably now you have to focus on those which we call the outback, engage them, give them opportunities, should have a lot of stake in, let's say, copper gold mines, bulk should be going to Gulistan. Same is, I think, true for, but if you look at the system, is quite corrupted. Let's be very frank in the sense that structurally it is corrupted system. You have then nepotism. Probably there is also issue related to merit. There are paper leaks in Pakistan also. So I think these are the kind of challenges that youth is facing. So first is to address that, and I'm sure that when they are comfortable, they have jobs, and then they have a stake, and then they probably can see some silver lining. I don't think so. There's any need, but I would advise the government that we should be ready for Gen Z doing something in Pakistan, not negatively, but this is going to be a natural process. So it could be PTI, it could be any other party, and then it becomes very, very difficult. I know that India is now doing a crackdown on the students today, and this is again a mistake. Probably they'll now come up, with more stronger force all across India. You can't suppress them. I think again very very important. And somehow I feel that because I've been in AJK twice and precisely served in Mirpur division like Kotli and forward areas uh, uh, in Natyal. So I know that in terms of let's say their grievances, their issues are very similar to what we are facing in Punjab or KP or Karachi. So so it means that in terms of let's say bureaucracy or leadership is same style or same I would say that's form of government or governance. So one is of course they have to improve it. Actually should be all across Pakistan, but for AJK, looking at some of their demands have been met. But it can always be a discussion we can have around table for let's say maybe months, discuss it out, even let's say put the people who are let's say who feel have grievances, and all parties. Now we have a lot of parties from mainland Pakistan, and then there are parties from Azad Jammu and Kashmir, and then also I would say get advice from some of their let's say activists who came from occupied. I know a couple of friends in Islamabad, Pindi, who can always look at the alternatives, and then this can be solved. It's not a huge issue. Then, of course, if there's a discourse and we sit down, we can definitely come up with a number of options, and then we can take it to Azad Kashmir, Azad Jammu Kashmir Assembly, and we can do the modification. But I'm not really, let's say, privy to what's happening now. We have seen in GB there's a different system of integration is taking place because GB in terms of let's say freedom, it was a very different fight because we were people who just liberated it, and then it has remained, northern area, and then you're looking like, let's say a semi-autonomous, let's say province of Pakistan. But that has also taken some time. Same is true, I think, in Azad Jammu Kashmir. These things can be discussed. We should get input, and I think, there should be, devil's advocate who are going, 180 degree to let's say what the main land is thinking or the Azad Jammu Kashmir leadership is thinking, and then you come up with the idea. I don't think so. There should be any bar. So it's a very good suggestion. We had seen in Balochistan, Agaz, Balochistan package came in the People's Party time, and some of it worked. Then of course we had. Unfortunately, things again turning upside down. But here it's very, very critical because we can't afford, stability in Azad Jammu and Kashmir. Because we are eyeball to eyeball with India, and they would like to exploit it. So I think we should be listening to all kinds of people, and then we can come up with, I think, alternative solutions. Then I think that can be done
If
by the parliament. I think right from the word go, if you look at the genesis of this One Action Committee, um, because we've been discussing it on media also. And there were some friends who highlighted this something is bubbling up in Raj Jammu and Kashmir. You have to look at it. It was pointed out that we should be. This was, I think, 3 4 years back, and now we are into a situation where we are discussing this is the crisis situation. So I agree with it that there could be always because you also have an element of JKLF. It's very interesting history, Jammu Kashmir Liberation Front, who have been like if you even look at whether it was Muslim Conference, it was Sayyid Ali Gilani or the Hurriyat, JKLF always had a very different view. They talked of mainly, and I think Yasin Malik was part of JKLF sometime. But the only thing was that should be a militant struggle or it should be a political struggle. And some of their leaders, came and settled here, like Amanullah Khan. And then you have this youth also. So it means that this Awami Action Party was penetrated by a JKLF element, which looks at basically an independent Kashmir. But the main question is that, how do you do it? Do you break this Kashmir, make it independent, then ask India to come and or let's say liberate the other side? No. So first thing is that we have to basically consolidate here, be ready for that referendum in case that comes, and then of course we fight it out constitutionally. So I would say that these elements were already there, and they've been raising these slogans. I think Mr. Tawfiq Ilani, somebody, and then they have a lot of following inside London also. UK is very interesting. Like I think there are almost 15 lakh to 20 lakh Pakistani Kashmiri, and you can't differentiate that who's Pakistani or who's Kashmiri. And they've been going in waves and number, and now they are into political power. Seen some of their MPs. There have been people, lords, even they were knighted. So it means that they have a clout in UK, and definitely they can play a positive role also. But JKLF is also present, in London. So it means that these elements could be identified and they should also be engaged. That at least I'll put the argument that when you look at independent Kashmir, for instance, let's say look at the option. How do you do it? Do you offer this on plate to Rajnath Singh, who daily say that we'll get back POK and all that? So it has to be sequential. Then choices can be given. But so far the UN has given a choice is India or Pakistan. So initially, and I think even Pakistani political leadership is quite open. First is to get this let's say area, hold the plebiscite, get your right, and then they can all. And then if you look at even Azad Kashmir, Sayyid Ali Kalani used to say it very clearly that out of the there are 11 routes which come from overall Kashmir to India and Pakistan. 10 are connected with Pakistan. So geographically, you start counting from even Jammu because there's only one way, that is Gurdaspur, which connects Indian mainland with Kashmir. Otherwise, all the way up to even Gilgit-Baltistan. So natural grain of the geography is connected Pakistan, culture, history, geography. So I'm sure the only thing is how do we communicate it to the youth? So maybe I think you are right that you could always bifurcate in elements who are totally, playing on the Indian tunes. I've seen it on social media. They're doing spaces with people from Indian occupied Kashmir. And we have seen Indian occupied Kashmir activists now supporting them. I'm asking them first, get some freedom from India. You are not even a state, you are a union territory. So at least get that. I think there is a need to remind the youth of what is actually happening. Because unfortunately, at times you remain so much focused on, let's say, our own internal, they don't contrast. One is, let's say, Pakistan did try, even I think President Musharraf tried to open some of the, and the aim was that maybe we allowed soft borders, people come and go. And then it was India basically was shut down because then they started feeling that probably this is not going to work, it will have negative impact and people will be attracted towards, let's say, an independent Kashmir, independent from India. Then comes, we've been, Pakistan has fought 4 wars to include Kargil. Even the last, skirmish air was, if you look at all the aircraft were shot down very close to the line of control. So it means that basically it's not very easy to open the route just because somebody is saying it. Then it's just contrast. For instance, there are, I think, 14,000 half widows in occupied Kashmir. Half widows mean that they don't know whether their husbands are living or dead or shaheed, and they can't remarry. The government is not ready to disclose. There are 14,000 missing kids since from 2019 August. And now, if you look at the figures which are shaheeds of occupied Kashmir, are almost 100,000. Then you look at Kunan Poshpura. And also, I think they should look at what has happened to, let's say, occupied Kashmir. You had Farooq Abdullah as the prime minister, Sheikh Abdullah. And then from prime minister, he becomes the chief minister. And today, they are having union territory. And look at Farooq Abdullah. Sorry, Umar Abdullah doesn't have a say. He can't even utter a word. I think yesterday they demolished a couple of houses. They picked up 2,500 youth just because one constable was killed. And this is a punishment, a collective punishment being given to, First time India has realized that there were pellet guns used because now pellets guns were used in Jantar Mantar. So this is the contrast. I'm not saying that, let's say, Pakistan should be as oppressive as India. Now you are asking the same entity a sport that they are going to be, and they are going to go over the Pakistan army and the Kashmir. I know I've commanded a Mujahid battalion. Interestingly, they were all Kashmiri soldiers. So I was a lieutenant colonel, and I never felt that there is a let's say any difference because we were defending it together on very critical sectors. So I have my own personal experience also. So basically, I think this is more rhetoric and information domain trying to poison the mind. Very, very unfortunate. But let at least war games is practically possible that you can open and the convoys, the Indian convoys are going to pass over Pakistan army and then land up here. So yes, there was definitely arrangement at President Musharraf's side. Why India shut it down? Well, it feared because ultimately they are the same people that there is going to work, other way around. It was going to harm Indian interests. So I think this is more of rhetoric. And otherwise, if you look at the shutdown, was mostly driven by this party themselves. We've seen people, felling trees and blocking, and then they were. So now, getting back to L1 and Hadi Toffler, this is possible. through media, through social media to develop a perception. And that's where I think there is a problem with the government system in Pakistan, Azad Jammu and Kashmir, bureaucracy and leadership. They don't understand this challenge. So that means you have to tackle it in a very smart manner and engage the youth. And inshallah, after these election, probably they're going to be thawing off a thing, and we can always engage. They are our brothers. I think first is basically understanding the let's say enormity of the challenge itself. And half of it is, I think it's more than half is in information domain and how the minds are being targeted. One is I have noticed, a long time back, this was I think 2009 that we started writing in newspapers, myself and my wife, and we do some writing also. And then we realized there was no trend of putting comments under the newspaper editorials or opinion pieces. But all the comments that our articles were published mostly on India would come from India. So it means that they were quite aware. Then you have this EU disinformation lab report. So I would say that they are much ahead in terms of, let's say, having proper dedicated people who will, and they do it in a number of languages. I'm sure that India today has more qualified people in Balochi language than Pakistan who are doing on social media. There's music which is coming up. So it means that they understand it, that what's the importance or criticality of this aspect. So this is one that probably our bureaucracy or leadership, I think, need a lot. It's not, intelligence agency cannot do everything. It has to be like, I just take a minute that I have appealed to the MNAs, MPAs, and senators of Balochistan, irrespective of which party they come from. I think the tradition is that if there are 45, MPs, everybody is in the government. This is the tradition, and they have definitely constituencies. They're, I think, closer to 100. Why can't these have you ever seen, other than, let's say, Siraj Isani's son is there, or Safaz Bufti is there, at time, there's some Shafiq Mangal Saab. Out of these 100, have you ever seen anybody coming on the media and trying to, let's say, engage the Balochistan? Why? So is it only, they'll, ride these land cruisers and come and basically get the vote, and then they don't even contact? Who is responsible? So politically, they have to engage the youth. And every MNA, MP, and senator, now I know, has a social media team, highly paid and very smart people, but then they'll just, same is happening in Punjab, same is happening in, I think, Sindh, in KP. So this is the unfortunate part, that you are not ready to even engage, your people and your youth. So that should be the first line. Then, of course, is the, I would say that informing the youth of what is happening, and then also clarifying, because otherwise, they will just go on, even in, I think, Arab Spring, there was an article by, I think, Prince Hassan of Jordan, I remember, because happening around that we didn't realize that the Arab youth, left the media and they went online, migrated online, you mentioned. Nobody was even knowing it, that people have, and they've seen, governments being toppled. So this is, I think, very critical. There could be 101 suggestions, but main thing is that one is engage the youth. The other is we should be able to identify and come up with a smart narrative. And then, of course, is till the time their economic well-being, till the time they are not having jobs, they are not having the stake. I think this problem would remain, and the space would remain available for the terrorists as well as for, let's say, hostile agencies. And now, unfortunately, we have probably Israeli agencies who are very, very smart, in terms of disinformation. And look at the tools that they have. Probably they have also joined. It's a huge challenge, but I feel that state, the leadership, and the bureaucracy has to cover a lot of it.